Welcome back. In this episode, we wanted to talk about using the Surface Duo 2 as a pocketbook or as a notepad with Microsoft OneNote. I've been doing this a fair bit with the Surface. I got the Slim Pen 2, the new one, with my second generation Surface Duo 2. I lost the first one. But Matt, you've been using OneNote a bit on your Surface Duo 2 as well?
Yep, love OneNote. My favourite tool of all. Changed my life when I started using it back in 2003. Huge fan of OneNote and really happy with what Microsoft have done with OneNote in Android and specifically the way they've thought about it on the Duo 2, the way it works with two screens.
I should just say here that, Matt, you are actually a OneNote MVP. So most valuable professional. You have done a lot of work with the OneNote team, and I've sat in on some of that work over in Redmond. We've been to plenty of meetings with the team over there. We met Ryan McMinn and had a good conversation with him a few times. He's now left the leadership role there in OneNote and the Notes division at Microsoft. But we also, know a lot of the other folks that work at OneNote too. So yeah, so that's interesting you say, though, that you're happy with this. I see a lot of, sort of negative feedback sometimes. I tend to see a lot of the negative feedback around tools like this. OneNote on Android, it's not what it is on Windows, right?
Yeah,
it's the same on iOS, yeah.
Yeah, it's not. And none of the versions have parity with what's available on the desktop or the Windows 10 version. And even those two versions aren't at parity. And we know that OneNote's doing a lot of development in that space.
Two OneNotes.
And that there will be eventually one OneNote on Windows at least.
Yeah.
But the operating systems have limitations. That's the reality of what they are, and
true.
And the versions are not the same. But from a pocketbook perspective, from an ability to take notes quickly and on the spot, I need to take a note right now. This is great. I did note. So when I first got the Surface Duo, I didn't have the cover yet. So I've got that charging cover as well for the pen.
Yeah.
And I was frustrated continuously because I wanted to take a note and the pen wasn't with me. Right, so that was really. But as soon as I got that cover and the pen's always on the device now, that's that's what I want. I want to take a note right now. And as you rightly pointed out in the last conversations we had, that you can set up your Surface Pen button so that as soon as you hit it, OneNote opens. And because of the fast login with the fingerprint reader, I can take a note instantly. And sure, you can type a note into anything you want to type it into Microsoft To Do or something else, but writing a note, we know this, it encodes memory in different ways than what we do with typing. So if you really want to remember something or spark an idea or get that creativity flowing, write it down. And OneNote on Surface Duo it's a match made in heaven.
Yeah. Now, so I write a lot of stuff in OneNote. In fact, I wrote all of the notes for this video series here on the Surface Duo 2 in OneNote. How do you go about using it? So obviously you mentioned there the click button with the pen now. That's a pretty cool, handy thing to have. Do you tend to span the app, and do you work in portrait mode or landscape? What's your sort of flavor?
It's one, if I had to say one feature I want to see that I can't see in this yet, right? And that is I do go to span in OneNote a lot. I would love the app to be able to span both screens without the notebooks and the pages visible. So to go a full screen across the two screens. I know, look, going to portrait mode fixes that. And from a writing perspective, I think that going to portrait mode is a very good way to write notes. Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that, but there is a button there which is full screen mode. And so that will actually go.
Oh, it does. Look at that.
We'll get a screenshot of that.
Okay.
So that
it does do that. I've been looking for that button for weeks.
I was frustrated. I don't know if it was there before, if it's something they've recently added, because, we might have just missed it, right? But that's exactly the feedback I had. I was in landscape and I'm like, the whole left-hand side is all of the notebooks and sections. I just wanted the whole page for writing,
So there, I've just learned something already and using it, and that's fantastic. What I love about that, right, is because of the way we use OneNote, and we've been using it for a long time, but our notes are typically not linear, not down the page. They're across pages, and they're very expansive, or like whiteboard sessions, really. So that ability to scroll around the page and see it in its whole context is really valuable. So that's, I'll be doing that a lot more, that full screen version. I've been hunting for that.
Now that it's there.
And it was right in front of my eyes and I couldn't see it.
Well, I think I was looking for it as well, and I had exactly the same feedback. And that's why I was doing the same thing. I was switching into the portrait mode quite a lot to do OneNote on the portrait mode. That said, I kind of like the portrait mode because when I'm writing, I can actually rest. You can rest your hand on the screen when you're using the Surface Pen, just like you can on a Surface Pro.
Yeah.
And I've got a nice clear 3x2 space to write on. down here, it's quite wide, and we need the width to be able to write. And then as I scroll up and down, the content's moving up and down the page. I can see the content that I've just written on the top section while I'm writing on the bottom section. So I do highly rate that portrait view with the 2 screens spanned. My question is this, we talked about just briefly one of the police departments or state police departments in Australia talking about using the Surface Duo 2 as a thing to replace the pocketbook that police officers often carry around and write notes on. Have you used it much in that sort of mode there? I've done a little bit. I wouldn't say a lot.
Just for those quick ideas, right? You just want to jot something down quickly or, remind yourself of something. Then I have occasionally done that rather than getting it. I do find, though, that I probably tend to most often get it out into book form as opposed to single screen form.
Yeah, I'm trying to push myself a little bit to do that mode a little bit more just so that I can get to know it a bit more, because I'm the same. I would always have the 2 screens. Like, why have 1 screen when you can have 2 screens, right?
I think it's something we teach people with regards to their laptop use as well, right? So, we see this lots, that people have a second screen connected to their docking station and they don't use 2 screens. They only use 1 screen. No, I like to use 1 screen. Well, my view is if you've got the real estate, use it wherever possible and get as much context as you can up. So, but the flexibility of being able to go single screen to 2 screens is very useful. Go on.
Just a little note there. What I've done here in OneNote, if you click on the menu button up the top right, you can actually turn on rule lines when you're using your pen. So you can have much more of that pocketbook style experience. Now I've got dark mode turned on here, so it's black on white, not white on black. But that, if it was on white on black, would look exactly like that little pocket notebook there. And you can scribble along the lines. You've got limited space just as you would on that pocket notebook, but you can effectively...
It replaces. I mean, we've all seen those small Spirex notebooks, right, that sit in someone's pockets and they flip through them. Replaces that beautifully. Just on that, so one of the most common things I've seen discussed is in Android version of OneNote, we don't have templates. So people might like a note-taking template, or maybe it's a checklist or something they want to take notes against. But if you set that up in the desktop version of OneNote and you've set up page templates properly, they'll work in the Android version. You just can't set them up in the Android version.
On the Android.
Yeah.
So you kind of need to use it with a PC or maybe the web version. I'm not sure if it works in the web version or not, but you need to set it up so that they come through in the sections that you've created. It is possible to do that. If you want to know how, ask us in the comments. But the other thing that so initially I'd noticed that occasionally I would get with the 3-button navigation system that I have turned on as opposed to the gestures. There is an advantage to having the gestures here that I might accidentally palm down on one of the navigation buttons and minimize the OneNote app, which is a bit frustrating. But you don't use the 3-button navigation, so you've probably not had that problem.
No, I haven't. I've stuck with the touch navigation.
So look, OneNote on this device is absolutely fantastic, and this is one of the key reasons that I've bought into this concept, and I've literally bought into it now. And even though Microsoft gave me one, I had to go and buy one because I lost that one. The idea of being able to have a device that I can scribble notes into quickly on a device like this was one of the key things, right? As you said, like we've got a whole series, a video series on the science behind using a pen. It really goes into depth on why writing something down is far more effective than typing, especially when it comes to notes. If it's things that you want to retain and remember, if it's actions that you want to get done, writing it down will help you to get it done. Typing it down and on a little tiny phone keyboard will not. It just will not help. And it's about the multi-sensory, multimodal experience that comes along with using a pen. It's a visual and spatial thing that we're doing. It activates a lot of our brain power when we do it. But the other app that I just wanted to mention in here, and it's kind of related, it is actually kind of sort of sits in the same division at Microsoft, is the Sticky Notes app. Now, Sticky Notes is built into the Microsoft Launcher app, which is the default launcher on the Surface Duo 2, and it's the only real launcher that works effectively with the 2-screen setup. But it is possible to quickly write down a sticky note. And initially, I haven't done this in the last couple of weeks since I got the new device because I don't think I've set it up properly. In fact, I can't see my sticky notes in the right place here, but there they are. So in the launcher there's my sticky notes. And it's pretty easy to create an ink note now. This is something that you never used to be able to do in the launcher app, but from there you can actually create an ink note and scribble something down very quickly, as opposed to with OneNote where you have to sort of go, which section am I in?
Where am I going to put this? That's right.
and you can sort of have that set up in advance with OneNote, but if you don't, then with sticky notes, it will sync with your PC. So I can scribble something down, it's in the sticky notes app on my PC, and it shows up in the OneNote feed on your desktop OneNote app as well, or even on the web version of the OneNote app, I think.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it actually even comes into the Outlook web app. So you can actually scribble something down here and access it almost instantly over on your PC or other device, just using the OneNote app with the notes feed that's built right into OneNote. So that's a pretty cool thing for being able to scribble down those quick and easy notes as well.
Yeah, so
worth a mention.
Again, this is an advantage over the Pocketbook, right? Because I've captured a note, I now have it available in multiple places without doing anything else with it, desktop, other apps, etc. So we've got an advantage here in going to a device that thinks about using a pen on it.
You've really tapped into something there, actually thinking about it, because imagine if you're the police inspector and you lost your Pocketbook with all of that evidence and notes and statements and things like that on it. That would be terrible. I lost my Surface Duo 2. Now, because I was using the Surface Duo 2 to take all those notes, losing the device did not mean losing my notes. I lost literally nothing by losing that device. And within a couple of days, I had my old phone back up and running. And then a couple of days after that, I got the new Surface Duo 2, and I had everything right down to the last photo that I took with that device on the new device.
And it could have been even quicker for you. The couple of days was just based upon the fact you were on a camping trip, right? So didn't have...
Yeah, exactly. And so I couldn't physically, I was hours away and I couldn't physically go and get the device that I needed. But even though I was taking notes on that device, I lost the device. I never lost the notes. I never lost the information. The information is backed up for me in the cloud. It's accessible on multiple devices. All of the handwritten notes that I take directly into my OneNote page here on the Surface Duo 2 are searchable, and I can convert them to text in the OneNote app on my desktop as well. So that's a pretty incredible thing.
And there's another corporate responsibility here or idea for us to think about, right? And so we have people from a work perspective in the field collecting data and taking notes. And if they're taking those notes in paper-based forms, notepads, etc., that data never gets to the company. No one goes and types all those notes, and the learning that those people are doing in the field is lost to the organization. If it goes into OneNote through devices like Surface Duo, it becomes corporate information. Now, in the public space, police officers, environmental inspectors, whatever else we're talking about in that inspection base,
there's governance that needs to sit over that data as well, right?
Yeah.
We do all this work with data like documents and emails and things like that. Like you can't do this with that. But when it comes to the paper notes, it's like it just stops there and people don't do anything with them.
It goes beyond the governance too. So I remember sitting in a cab many years ago, and the gentleman that picked me up from the Gold Coast airport, he was telling me about how he retired from the fisheries department, for example, on the Gold Coast. Yeah. And he took a package. The government was offering redundancy packages. So him and his entire office took a package. And he said that fisheries office on the Gold Coast, lost something like 300 years worth of experience through redundancy packages.
Yeah,
now all that experience lived on paper-based notes in personal diaries. And he said, I feel sorry for the guys we left behind because they don't know what we know. Now the public paid for that knowledge to exist. Yeah.
Yes.
And they've lost it because of the systems that they use. So
that's right.
This digital ink space, so, we talk about this, it's underdone so much. It's not given the importance that it is. But something like Duo and the way that they've given some focus on being able to take a note when mobile, gives us a chance to think about some of these concepts and some of the value that we can retain and build in organizations if we do this.
Yeah, and we see that all the time, right? That getting a new device is a great opportunity to shift people's thinking. So perhaps with some of those examples, workflow examples, where note taking is a big part of it, and it really should be in every workflow, right? This is an opportunity to rethink what you're doing with mobile devices. So I'm pretty excited about the Surface Duo 2 as a pocketbook, as a portable note-taking device. So if you're interested in more content like this, make sure that you hit like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. In the next video, Matt and I, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about using the Microsoft Whiteboard and ideating and whiteboarding with the Surface Duo 2. So join us for that. We've got lots more content coming up on the Surface Duo 2.